This is the untold story of Admiral Chester W. Nimitz, whose life would traverse from a prairie town in central Texas hill country to the tumultuous vastness of the Pacific Ocean. The future admiral's father dies 6 months before he is born. The infant Chester and his mother are living at the home of her father, Heinrich Henke. Anna's father sells meat on the porch and processes the meat in the backyard. Across the street is the Nimitz Hotel, owned by Chester's paternal grandfather. Chester's childhood is very much influenced by his German-born, blonde-haired paternal grandfather, Charles Henry Nimitz, Jr. His grandmother is almost continually pregnant. Charles Nimitz is fond of his daughter-in-law, Anna, and knows that her son, Chester, does not have a father. Anna and Chester move into the Nimitz Hotel. Chester's grandfather devotes a lot of time to him. His grandfather recently lost his wife and is semi-retired. One of his sons is managing the hotel. Most of his other children have married and moved away. William, or Willie, the youngest son of the Admiral's grandfather, is attending school in Massachusetts. Willie is the only child that Charles Nimitz is able to pay for a higher education. After Willie returns home from school with a degree in engineering, his skills are not in demand in the Fredericksburg area. Willie is not able to develop a career, but on Christmas Day, 1890, he marries Anna, the future admiral's mother. Anna is the widow of Willie's brother. She is still considered beautiful. The grandchildren of Charles Henry Nimitz love his outlandish stories. When he tells the story of being at sea in the German merchant marine, he eventually leaves most people believing that he had been a captain of German merchant vessels. Charles explains that he can never make another voyage because I turn my back on the sea, and when you do that, you can never make an ocean trip. The sea will swallow you up as punishment. Sometime later, Charles sails to New York. He forgot about his tall tale, but his small grandchildren were afraid that he would be swallowed up by the sea. When Charles returned safely, he explains, I begged forgiveness and promised to give the sea one of my grandsons, as an admiral. The future admiral's grandfather is respected by his neighbors. They make him a school trustee and a member of the examination board for school teachers. In 1891, he's elected to the Texas state legislature. Chester William Nimitz, the future admiral, grows up Lutheran in a bilingual home that was half German and half American. During Christmas, a cedar tree is placed in the hotel parlor. It's decorated with popcorn, colored paper, fruits, nuts, and cookies. At the hotel, and at his maternal grandmother's home across the street, there are cookies in a stone jar, some flavored with cinnamon and pepper. On Christmas Eve, a very American Santa Claus appears, and there is a prayer in German. On the first day of school, Chester's grandfather hands him a small derby hat to wear. He is wearing a pair of jeans and a shirt, but is barefooted. He does not have much contact with other children. When Chester arrives at the schoolyard, another boy knocks his hat off his head. When he puts his hat back on, it is knocked off again. Before Chester gets to school, his eyes are black, clothes are torn, and the derby is a shambles. He fights for the hat all day and brings the fragments home. A few months before the Admiral's death, he wonders, why do you suppose Grandfather ever gave me that hat to wear to school? Chester is very attached to his mother and paternal grandfather. Regarding his grandfather, he later wrote, "I didn't know my father because he died before I was born, but I had a wonderful white-bearded grandfather. He was Charles H. Nimitz, who settled in Fredericksburg, Texas, and built a steamboat-shaped hotel." Between chores and homework, I listened wide-eyed to stories about his youth in the German merchant marine. In the role of father figure and role model to young Nimitz, his grandfather taught him that the sea is like life itself, a stern taskmaster. The best way to get along with either is to learn all you can. Then, do your best and don't worry, especially about things over which you have no control. When Nimitz was about 5 years old, he moved with his mother and stepfather, Willie, to Kerrville, Texas. Willie's older sister acquires the St. Charles Hotel through marriage. She gives Willie a job as the manager of the hotel. Willie, Anna, and Chester move the 24 miles to Kerrville. Chester's sister Dora is born in 1895, and his brother Otto is born in 1897. They live in the hotel, which is a large 2-story boarding house. It has porches and balconies. The guests are primarily ranchers, traveling salesmen, and people with tuberculosis looking for a cure in Texas. Chester's parents run the St. Charles Hotel in Kerrville. Anna supervises the kitchen and does most of the cooking. She directs 1 or 2 maids who clean the rooms. She also does most of the managing of the hotel. Willie is conscious of his own inadequacies and sits on the front porch chatting with guests. He takes walks and is a familiar sight. He spends a lot of time watching construction work in town. Chester attends high school when classes begin. Anna fears that Chester might have inherited some of his father's physical frailties. Chester is determined to stay physically fit. To ensure his health, Chester runs regularly and swims often. He rarely rides when he can walk, even the 14 miles out to Uncle Otto's ranch. As a child, Chester has many friends and is nicknamed Cottonhead because of his blonde hair. While Chester is a good swimmer and has good health, he has pneumonia several times. Chester visits Fredericksburg frequently during holidays. Along the Guadalupe River at Kerrville or the creek in Fredericksburg, he swims, fishes, and hunts rabbits and doves with other boys. Chester is a friendly child, but has a temper. Although he gets into fights, he does not hold a grudge. He learns that brain power is better than fist power. Chester likes week-long camping trips with his grandfather. The captain tells Chester to invite a friend, and they take the big horse-drawn prairie schooner. Chester's grandfather attends to the camp and does the cooking. The boys hunt, fish, or just roam the woods. Chester Nimitz is working in his family's meat business and at the hotel. After dinner, he studies while he takes his turn as the desk clerk until 10 p.m. His aunt, who is the proprietor, gives him board and lodging and $15 a month. Chester does not have the opportunity for more than a high school education. Chester Nimitz makes some plans to become an apprentice to a surveyor. Chester Nimitz decides that West Point is his best chance for a higher education, travel, and adventure.